This is the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge Round 4, Week 13. And I know I told you that this was going to be the final week, but it's not. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. Speaking of zombies, I have a comic book called Young and the Dead. It is a kids versus zombie adventure. It is an homage. It is a throwback to those 80s action adventure films starring kids that took place in the 80s mostly. And, you know, stuff like Goonies and Monster Squad, Explorer, E.T., Stand By Me. You know, if we want to go with a more modern example, Stranger Things is a good one. Also, you guys remember Super 8, another good one. But if you like those types of movies, then you'll probably dig my comic book. It's kids versus zombies. It's like Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead, and I have 4 issues available. This is the current issue. I am working on a new issue. This is issue 4. I'm working on issue 5 as part of this challenge, the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. Now, I'm going to briefly explain what that is about. I do this in the beginning of every video, so you just got to bear with me for those of you that aren't new. If you are, then this is what it's about. So, 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge was started by Kevin Cross as a way to boost his productivity on his comic book. He was just not finding time in his busy schedule to work on it, so he said, if I put aside 30 minutes a day every day and I do that for 100 days straight, and not only that, but hold myself accountable by putting it out there on the internet, so people know that I'm working on it, that they can hold me accountable, and that so I can hold myself accountable. And you can do that on social media. I'm doing it obviously on YouTube. You can do it on Instagram, Facebook, like a Discord if you belong to a Discord of other comics creators. However you want to do that, that's basically the challenge. You just do that for 100 days straight, and you build up these healthy, you know, habits as far as working on your comic book. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm doing things a little bit differently. I tweaked it because I've already done this challenge, like I said, 3 times before. So this 4th time around, I am not doing daily videos. If you're starting for the first time, if this is your first time doing the challenge, I recommend doing those daily updates. I've done it enough times, so I'm doing a weekly update. And I'm also not, I'm putting in a little more than that 30 minutes a day. I chose to put in an hour a day. So where am I at? Well, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that at the last video, I said that this was going to be the final week. And it would have been the final week, but I forgot, I had a little snafu around, I think it was around week 10, where there were 2 days that I couldn't work on my comic book. I explained it back then, the reason why. But anyway, I couldn't do that, so just sort of as a way to make up for that, I decided I'm just going to redo week 10. And even though I had a little bit of time already, I mean, that was only 2 out of the, I guess, the 7 days of week 10, but I said I'm going to redo that. But because of that, I was thrown off a little bit. So when I went to figure how many days I've actually been doing this, because I probably should have just had like a check mark, this is day 1, day 2, I hadn't been doing that. I was just going by the days of the month because I knew I started the first of the year. I started January 1st. So I just went and looked at the calendar and, oh, so many days have gone past. And if I wouldn't have missed those 2 days, I would have been at day 100 right now. But there's 2 extra days that I gotta do. So I'm just gonna do a whole other week. I don't wanna just do a quick episode just on 2 days, because like I said, I'm remaking that week up. So we're gonna do 1 more week after this. We'll sort of do, I don't know, we'll do a recap or whatever. We'll go over everything that I've done and what I've accomplished. But here's basically my goal. So the last time I did this challenge, I was working on a different comic book project. But the challenge before that, I think it was it must have been round 2, the second time that I'd done it, I was working on Young and the Dead. And I look back at those videos, and when I completed that series, I had finished 8 pages pencil and ink. So I definitely want to catch up to that. Now, I'll be a little further ahead if I do that, because I didn't just work on 1 script this time around. I worked on 2 scripts, so it took a little longer in the beginning because I just wanted to complete the whole story, to know exactly where I was going to be, and then, you know, the whole thing will conclude in issue 6. Like I said, I'm working on issue 5. My goal in the next 2 days is to finish 8 pages, and I think I should be able to do that. Let me show you where I am now. Another goal that I have is to complete at least 1 to 2 pages penciled and inked every single week. Now, that's I think that's pretty good, seeing that I'm really only working on it an hour at a time. I don't remember, I think the last time I did the challenge when I was doing the round 2, when I was working on Young and the Dead, I think I may have put in a little more time because there were total weekends that I devoted to that. Right now I just don't have the time, and that's what's good about this challenge, because you're making that time even when you don't really have it. So I don't know if I'm working as much time, so I must be getting a little faster, a little more expedient, which is good. I talked about that in another episode, but let me show you where I am right now, what I've done since the last video. So I completed inking this page. This is page 6, and I got I'm blocking out this panel because there's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a major spoiler, maybe a minor spoiler. It's just interesting, and I do want to leave some stuff out when you actually go in to read the book. But like I said, we're only into page 6, so it's not a huge spoiler. That will probably come at the end of this issue, which I will not show you guys. And I will be after this challenge, I'll probably be showing you some other. I'll just giving you some update in some other form, whatever videos we're doing. But anyway, so I've got page 6 is fully inked. And this right here is page 7, fully inked. So right there's a couple of pages, and then I have page number 8 penciled. I don't know if you can see that because it's blue lined, but you'll be able to see it when I ink it. So really, all I have to do is ink this one page in 2 days. So I'm pretty confident that I can do that and be ahead, because my other goal is to not just match what I was doing the last time I went through this, but to excel and go beyond that. And like I said, I already did some more upfront work in the beginning, so I think I'm already ahead of that, but I want to be way beyond that, because anytime I take a challenge, my goal is not just to meet the expectations, but surpass them. So hopefully I'm doing that. Now, what I want to talk about today is my daily routine and how that's changed recently, because I'm admittedly a bit of a workaholic. I'm fortunate enough to be able to draw for a living and create cool stuff, and that's what I love to do. So I don't mind doing it, and I dive pretty deep into that. But I've noticed that because of that, a lot of the other things in my life have kind of taken a back seat. What I'm doing now is allowing myself to have more of a balanced life, not just the work and everything. Because if you remember if you're old enough to remember those old cereal commercials, it would be like Frosted Flakes or something, some super sugary cereal. It'd be like Frosted Sugar Wheats or whatever, part of a balanced breakfast. And you look at that and like, yeah, this thing's just full of sugar. It's probably not that good for you if that's all you eat it. But I guess if you add some other healthy stuff like some fruit and some milk and some other stuff like that, I guess it could be part of a balanced breakfast. It definitely isn't by itself. But I'm kind of equating that to what I've been doing with my work in comics, because sure, a big bowl of sugary cereal is fun and it tastes great, but it's probably not the best thing for you. And the same way with the work that I'm doing. I love the work that I do, but it's often at the expense of other areas of my life. So I'm trying to use that analogy as that balanced breakfast to kind of reform my life and create more balance. Because I've dedicated so much of my time to my career and my work and creating things, the other areas of my life, it's not like I've neglected them so much, but they definitely haven't taken center stage like, my artwork. And I want all this stuff to be even and balanced. My relationship, my family, community service, my health, wellness, all those things in addition to my professional career and hobbies and all that stuff. I just want to create more of an even balance, because it's been if it's a scale, it's kind of been my work like this, and I kind of want to bring it up like this. So right now I'm taking action in my daily routine to create more, of an abundant mentality where I can have it all. I can have all these things, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to be working less on my comic or, pushing the other things aside. There's time for everything, and there's been a lot of, there's wasted time. I'm pretty good at not getting too much into watching a bunch of TV or playing video games or anything like that. So I focus quite a bit on my work, but a lot of times my mind is just all over the place and I'm worrying about things, and that creates little pitfalls and roadblocks along the way and things like that. So I'm trying to be way more focused. So as far as my daily routine, this is kind of how it's gone and some of the new things that I've introduced. The one thing that I've introduced that I'm doing every day is another 100 days challenge. This one's a little different. This is meditating for 100 days straight. Now, if you asked me before, I would say, no, I'm not gonna, I can't meditate. That's not me. I'm like a mile a minute. I don't like, I get bored. I can't just sit down and do nothing. So I kind of fought this thing, but I've been working with, you know, a life coach and everything. And he recommended, he said, well, you ever think of trying this? And I'm like, I'm kind of open to anything. I'm kind of open to trying anything and seeing how it works. So I said, you know, in the past, I don't know that this is for me, just sitting, you know, calmly and doing nothing, because when I feel like I'm doing nothing, it's feel like nothing's getting done. So, but I agreed to do it, and so far I am like 15 days into this, I don't want to say it's a challenge. I guess it's a challenge. They said it was going to be super challenging, and I thought it was based on sort of the way I was thinking about it before. But when I started doing it, no, it was relaxing, and it kind of, it freed up everything else. It just allowed me to kind of sit down, and I'm doing this for up to 15 minutes a day. And maybe I'll put a link if anyone's interested in doing this. It's called mindfulness exercise. I think it's mindfulnessexercises.com. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. Otherwise, you can just go to that URL. But you can sign up for it's a free thing. It's like 100 days of meditation, and every day in my email. The first thing I get up, that's what I check. I check my email, and I don't even look at all the other emails yet. I just find that one, and I hit play on it, and then I just go through, and whatever the, I don't know, instructor, what you would call him. I think he was a former Buddhist monk or something like that. But he goes through, and you just relax, and you breathe, and all that stuff. And it's been pretty amazing for me personally. You know, I guess you have to try it yourself and see if it works, if that's something you're interested in. Like I said, I fought that for a while. But just having that time, instead of just getting up and like, oh, I'm gonna do this and do that, it allows me to get centered before I start everything. And really, a lot of the nonsense stuff I have been trying to weed out of my life. All of the, you know, going through all that, you know, hate scrolling and doom scrolling, whatever you call that, on Facebook. It's just stuff that made me angry. I've been trying to shut all that stuff out, and just so I have more time, even because you can't create more hours in a day, but there's so much time that you spent with just nonsense stuff that just isn't healthy for you. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. So as far as my daily routine right now, the first thing I do is I focus on that meditation. I'm not really a spiritual person. I guess you could put that in the spiritual category. The woo-woo stuff I'm not really so sure on, but just as far as just as a way to just calm down, center myself and everything, that's fine. So I guess you could call that spirituality or whatever, if you want to put in that category. So if you want that, that's kind of what I do first thing in the day. And then the other thing I do is my health and wellness. So, and this is kind of reverse. I've been running, and, you know, I usually run and walk. It's like a combination. I'll run for a little bit, then walk, then run. And I do that for about 3 miles a day. My goal is about 5 days a week. So I was doing my comic book first thing, because that's one of the things that I recommend. And usually the first thing that you do in the day, that's if you know, whatever it is that you're doing, if you set that schedule and you set a time for it, then usually it gets done. And for me anyway, I don't want to say if I'm a morning person or a night person. I'm kind of both, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. And now that the weather's changing, the sun's coming out earlier and it's getting hotter. The underground lair here is located in the desert of Arizona, somewhere in a hidden location. But I'm in Arizona where it gets really hot, so now I got to get up earlier. And that's the one reason that I've switched to do my daily jog or run first thing after the meditation, and then move the comic book out, because before they were reversed, my time on the comic book was first and the running was after. But since it's hot, not right now anyway, when I get up in the morning, it's still a little cool out, so I go do my run. And then when I get back, I do a little bit of workout, or sometimes I'll work on, this can switch, sometimes I'll work on my comic, and then I'll do the rest of my workout before I get my shower and everything, and get ready for the day. So those are 3 things within the span of 2 hours, roughly 2 hours, 2.5 hours, first thing in the morning. Now the next thing I do after I get ready for the day, I get dressed, do all that stuff, get out of my workout clothes. And if you're a person that works from home, and a lot of us are working from home now, I recommend getting dressed for the day, so I do that. It just makes me feel, it just, instead of lounging around in sweatpants all day, I feel better when I get to do that. So after I get the shower, get dressed and everything, then I go up and I go through the rest of those emails. And basically, this is the point in my day where I try to take care of anything that I probably rather not take care of, whether it's taxes or, you know, business stuff or just any kind of obligations that I have to get done with. I try to get all that stuff that I really don't want to do out of the way, and that after that frees me up to do my other stuff. And because I'm getting up early, I've still got a pretty good portion of the day. And the other thing I do, one thing that I'm doing right now is, like I said, I've got a personal coach that I'm working with, and I'm also coaching other people. I'm coaching a few people on my Patreon. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go check that out. But I'm doing coaching on whatever your art projects or whatever you're trying to accomplish in your art career, anything like that. And right now I've got 3 coaching clients that I work with, and I try to schedule those usually pretty early after I've done the jogging and the comic book stuff, the meditation, all that. And I usually set that up usually before noon. So if I got one of those coaching calls, I do that, you know, first, do that, then it's on, and I've got everything out of the way. And of course I'm working with other people's schedules, but so far everyone's been pretty accommodating. So I'll do that usually before noon, and then by noon I've got most of the rest of the day to work on, my creative projects and everything. And right now what I'm trying to do is not do so much client work, but work on, I've got another goal that I have right now is a community service goal, and that is to put 10 plus hours in the next 3 months into a community service project, and I'm working that into creative. So what I'm doing is I am working on a variant cover for an Archie comic that's coming out. I think it comes out in June if I'm correct, but anyway, it's a variant cover for it's a Betty and Veronica special, so I'm doing a variant cover of that, and I am donating my fee for that to autism, either research or just helping families with autism and everything. So that's something I feel passionate about, and it's great because it gives me a chance to work with a company like Archie, get that book out there, and it's just gonna be fun to do that, and I don't mind donating my time on that because it's gonna be fun, and who knows what that'll lead to. So I'll probably do a video on that and chronicle my progress on that, but that's something that's coming up. So another one is the community service goal. So right now, hopefully you can see that balance coming together, whether it's the spirituality stuff, the health and wellness aspect of my day, the community service, just my own personal project, my comic book, working on that. And of course, family stuff comes in. That comes in usually a little later, and it can fluctuate. Family stuff, my relationships, that usually comes later in the day. Kids are at school, stuff like that. They've got their own stuff that they're working on. My girlfriend also has a lot of stuff that she's working on. So we kind of, she's going through a bunch of schooling and stuff like that. So we find ways to make our schedule work so we get to spend time, and we spend quality time together. So we do all that stuff. Other than that, those are all the things that I haven't focused as much on, and it's kind of sad for me to say that, but and I don't want to say that I haven't been there for the people in my life and things like that. I always make time for that, but the focus has always been on my work, and now I'm creating that balance. And I'm finding, because now that I'm cutting out all the nonsense and stuff that really just gets in my head and bothers me. Once your head's a little more free, then the creative aspect, for me anyway, it just starts to flow. So I'm getting a lot more work done in that respect as well. And I've got a lot of different things that I'm doing, trying to move away from doing client work just to my own thing. So I'm publishing books, whether it's, I'm doing a lot of coloring books, the stuff that I publish on Amazon, workbooks, all kinds of different things like that. My digital products, if you've seen the Comic Maker Toolkit, the Amazing Comic Book World Builder, my fonts, all of those things, building those things, putting those out in the world, doing YouTube, doing Patreon, all of this stuff, and it's just little bits here and there that, you know, a little income here, a little income there, and that's starting to build. I'm not quite where I want to be, where I need to be, but that's what you know, those are the things that I'm working on. And because I'm balancing my time through all these different areas of my life, I don't feel guilty about working on my book, or maybe I should be doing this, and all these thoughts that go through my mind. You know, I'm allowed to be more focused, more present, and that's a big thing that I'm trying to do, is just be present with whatever task I'm doing, because sometimes I would work on something, I get frustrated, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put this aside, it's not working for me, I'll come back to it, and then, but you still, then it's hanging over your head, and you're like, oh, I gotta go back to that. But I was working on something, it was a loan application, something that I don't look forward to doing, I didn't really want to do, and you know, it's just all these long forms that you have to fill out, and so I filled out part of it, and then I kind of feel like, oh, I kind of made some progress, maybe I can just save it and come back to it later. And then I'm like, no, I got to get this thing done, because I don't want that hovering over my head. So I pushed through it, I got it done. Anything that I didn't understand, I quickly went and researched it, and it all in all, it didn't take that long, and I got it done because I was focused and I was present, and I didn't let anything stop me. Any of those little roadblocks that normally would have thrown me off, like, I can come back to it later. And I got through it, and that's one of the things that I'm doing right now, just being present with whatever task I am, and making, because this multitasking thing, I'm not really sure that really works. I know a lot of people talk about doing all these things, and I mean, I'm doing a lot of different things, but it's not necessarily at the same time. So I'm not sure if I'm on board with multitasking, where I've tried that before. I don't know if at least for me personally, I don't think it really worked. I mean, there's certain things that you can do, like, one of the things, like I see my friend Joshua Kimball, he's doing these vlogs and everything where he's got this long commute, and there's nothing really else you can do there, so he's just recording himself while he's on these commute where he's stuck in traffic and everything. So as far as multitasking, there are certain things that you can do that, you know, if you're trying to do two things that require a lot of focus, I don't know if that's the way to do it, but something like that I'm in favor of. But most of the time, I'm just trying to focus on that, whatever that task at hand is, and make sure I'm present, and I'm doing the best job with that I can. And that's kind of my work day. So I get a bunch of work done. You know, of course, you're fitting your meals in, you're fitting your family time in, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, I usually just wind down, and that's the time when, you know, I will put on, usually right before I go to bed, I'll put on like a TV show or something like that. So I've been watching, I think, Invincible, and no spoilers, because there's a lot of people that were complaining because they didn't just dump the whole thing out, you know, like at once when they put it on Amazon Prime. Disney Plus does the same thing where they put one episode. I don't mind that at all, because I am not a binge watcher. I'll sit down, and by the end of the day, I'm sort of tired, so I might put a show on, and I may get halfway through it and fall asleep. Not because it's boring or anything, but just I'm tired, and then watch the rest. So it takes me a long time to watch those, and it's usually like one thing at a time. I'll watch it, and that's it, and it takes me a while to do it. So I don't get a lot of TV in, but every once in a while, I do make time for that. So that kind of helps me unwind and everything. But anyway, that's sort of my day. I'm curious about you guys. Do you guys have a daily routine? What works for you? What are some things? Is your day just hectic, like this thing, that thing? Or do you kind of boil down to some sort of a system? And what is that system like? Let me know in the comments section. But I just wanted to kind of take you behind the scenes of my daily routine, how I'm trying to stay focused, how I'm trying to balance everything in my life. And the one thing I have to do is watch my language, because I keep saying I'm trying to do these things, and just like Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. So I am trying to strike that word from my vocabulary. But anyway, I am doing these things right now, and so far they're working, and who knows, maybe they'll work for you. Hopefully that's helpful. Anyway, let me know your guys' schedule, all that stuff in the comment section. I will see you guys later next week, which this time I'm sure I can guarantee that it will be the final week of 100 Days of Making Comics. I'll see you then. That is all.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.